Welcome. This is the video assignment from Mr. Eads' History 1302, History 2, Reconstruction America. Our topic is the Reconstruction Amendments. To maintain control over Reconstruction in the South, the Radical Republicans shut President Andrew Johnson out of the process through constitutional law rather than statute law. It is much harder to change the law once it is in the Constitution, and after all, Johnson interpreted the Constitution literally. Radical Republicans knew that he would follow the law once it was in the document, and he wouldn't object. Also, the Supreme Court cannot declare anything in the Constitution unconstitutional. Thus, the Radical Republicans pursued constitutional law rather than statute law, and they passed 3 amendments to the Constitution in the latter half of the 1860s, and they're commonly called the Reconstruction Amendments. The first is the 13th Amendment. Passed in December 1865, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States. This was the end goal of President Lincoln and many of those in the Republican Party during the Civil War. The 14th Amendment, passed in 1867, is considered to be one of the most significant structural changes to the U.S. Constitution since the Bill of Rights in 1789. The 14th Amendment removed all doubts of the constitutionality of the 1866 Civil Rights Act passed by the Radical Republicans and vetoed by Johnson by reaffirming citizenship to African Americans. Former Confederate officials had to receive a 2/3 vote from Congress in order to be pardoned or to hold public office. The 14th Amendment also declared the Confederate debt null and void. In other words, the 14th Amendment takes away the pardon power away from the president with regards to Reconstruction and the Confederacy. And it also prevents foreign bankers from coming to the United States looking for payment on Confederate debt. The United States simply refused to honor the debts incurred by the Confederacy. The 14th Amendment also contains 3 important clauses within its text that have become the cornerstone of civil rights cases. The first is the Privileges and Immunities Clause that guarantees citizens that state and local governments cannot take away any privileges or immunities granted to them by the federal government or by the Constitution. This Privileges and Immunities Clause is aimed directly at the Black Codes passed by Southern governments immediately following the Civil War. Laws like, if freedmen want to travel, they have to have a pass, or if freedmen want to work, they must have a labor contract. The 14th Amendment removes these obstacles. The Due Process of Law Clause in the 14th Amendment provides substantial protection to private contracts and thus prohibits an entire range of social and economic regulation. This is especially important in labor, as the Due Process of Law Clause also recognizes corporations as legal persons subject to the Constitution. In other words, people can now sue corporations as if they were legal persons and not just simply sue the persons attached to those corporations. The Supreme Court has also interpreted the Equal Protection Clause to mean that states apportion their congressional districts and their state legislative seats on a one-person, one-vote basis. 14th Amendment reaffirms citizenship to African Americans. 15th Amendment, the last of these Reconstruction Amendments, forbids the states from denying voting privileges on the basis of race. The first 2 things the 15th Amendment doesn't do. It does not extend voting privileges to women, and it does not extend voting privileges to those under the age of 21. Those changes to the Constitution come later. But this 15th Amendment does extend voting privileges to African American men. From a practical standpoint, the radical Republicans need this because by 1870, when this amendment is passed, the radical Republicans know they need the African American vote in the South to remain in power in the South. Also, radical Republicans are afraid that once Reconstruction is over, another Congress would come along behind them and reverse things. Now, these three amendments, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendments, all have one phrase in common in each of them. And that phrase is, Congress has the power to enforce. Why is this phrase in each of these amendments? Because isn't it the job of the president to enforce the law and to enforce the Constitution? Well, it's all a matter of who the radicals want to run the show. The radicals in Congress, they want to oversee Reconstruction in the South. The radicals in Congress want to run the show, not the president, not Andrew Johnson. Thus, although the Constitution gives the power to the president to enforce law, whether it be in the Constitution or on the books, the radicals wanted to guarantee that they and not the president ran Reconstruction. Thus, in these three amendments is the phrase, Congress has the power to enforce. And then finally, we come to the significance of the amendments, or why we should know them, especially these three amendments. First, they determine Congress's determination to ensure that the cause of the Civil War was not lost. These amendments, 13, 14, and 15, Republicans fought for, not just in Congress, but on battlefields. And that the rights of the freedmen of African Americans were guaranteed by the highest law in the land, the Constitution. Second, these three amendments demonstrate that Congress insisted on directing Reconstruction, and that the President of the United States would have no role in said Reconstruction. And then finally, when you take these amendments together, these three amendments, 13, 14, and 15, are the most substantial changes made to the Constitution since the Bill of Rights, as the 13th Amendment bans slavery, the 14th Amendment affirms citizenship to African Americans, and the 15th Amendment bans race-based voting qualifications. Thank you for watching, and may the force be with you.